The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you had a nice Monday. All right, so on Sunday, your boy logged 25,708 steps, which comes down to almost 12 miles. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't feel that great yesterday. Man, I was like run down. Like I really was. I was really run down. Hence, no episode. I was too tired Sunday night to crank out the episode. My bad. But man, that was a lot of steps. All right. Maybe I will not advocate getting 25,000 steps in one day. That might be a lot. Maybe break that up over 2 days, 12 and 12. There you go. That's probably a better idea. Anyway, all right. So, trying to figure out some interesting stuff to talk about today. Oh, you know what? Here's one. I actually meant to play this clip last week.
Obviously, there was so much talk that they don't want you to take Ivermectin. Ivermectin is the way to go. Take it. Joe Rogan got better from Ivermectin. And by the way, I don't like what people did to Joe Rogan about Ivermectin. I don't like it. You did it. No.
All right, so quick chime in. This is Chris Cuomo. Man, Chris Cuomo's been on the pod a lot lately. So this is Chris Cuomo in a debate against a guy named Dave Smith. He's actually a comedian, and he's really kind of made a real big name for himself, basically giving like solid political takes on various things. And so this was a debate that was hosted between Chris Cuomo and Dave Smith on the Patrick Bet David podcast. And they were talking all about again, Ivermectin. Remember, we talked a few times about Ivermectin yesterday. And actually, I've got another Ivermectin story I'll tell you after this. But, I really like this about this Dave Smith guy. He kind of, he wants accountability from Chris Cuomo, where Chris Cuomo is saying everybody was vilifying Joe Rogan. And Dave Smith's like, dude, you were vilifying Joe Rogan. And again, the beauty about the internet is there are receipts.
Yes, you did.
Find the clips.
Dude, find the clips. You shamed Joe Rogan.
Find the clips.
You said he's taking horse dewormer. You and Don Lemon were chuckling at each other about it.
No,
I'll go find
first
the
of all,
clip.
you just saw the clips. I'm not chuckling. I'm listening to Don. But
No. The clip I'm talking about wasn't on there, and it's absolutely there. Here, do we have it? Hold on. Let's play the clip.
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to.
Oh, my God.
What person? You talk about cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer, really?
They are shaming themselves.
That's what it is.
Shame them. They're shaming themselves.
So you're taking a dewormer right now.
This is
Chris,
a
you can't
dewormer.
apologize for that. You weren't being clear that it was this, and you know that, dude. You're being so dishonest right now, man.
I'm not.
Now that I listened to that whole clip, God, I wonder if I played that before. Anyway, if I did, it's okay because I think it's worth hearing again. But again, just to make sure I did say this previous, if I did not. So Chris Cuomo now is on Ivermectin as a protocol for his long COVID. So again, and he's being very outspoken about it with his doctor. They're basically using Ivermectin as a protocol for long COVID. And then, by the way, I did have another family friend that I had a discussion with, ironically, and they got shingles. I don't know if you guys know what shingles is. It's basically like adult chicken pox. And so obviously there's like a shingles virus or shingles vaccine you can get. I think it's incredibly painful. It's a lot of burning and itching and all that. And so this person has had a hard time basically getting rid of their shingles. And so they are now going to start on a Ivermectin protocol to see if that alleviates the shingles, which is actually really interesting because when they reached out to me, I kind of did a bunch of research, and there is a lot of data about after, I think, the second booster shot or the first booster shot, all of a sudden there was a significant increase in the number of cases of shingles in people over the age of 45, I guess. And they're not directly attributing it, but they're basically saying that there is a chance that the dormant virus of shingles was reactivated by one of the vaccines. I don't know. I can't say that's been proven by any means, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if getting on ivermectin helps her shingles. I hope it does, because it sounds like she's in tremendous pain. Oh, and by the way, I completely forgot to talk about this. So I did get a lot of nice compliments over the weekend about the episode with Jonathan Bogner talking about his heart transplant surgery. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, it's the episode that aired on Friday. Again, this is part of the guest interview series, and we've got some more good ones coming. But what I thought was, one of the biggest takeaways from that for me was really the cause and effect of things. And again, he basically thinks that he caught some type of viral infection at a film festival, and then that viral infection basically caused inflammation in his heart, and he started having myocarditis and other issues related to his heart, and then it led to strokes, and then it led to heart failure, and then obviously led to his heart transplant. But anyway, the biggest takeaway for me was that, I don't know, I guess maybe sometimes things just happen with the human body, but I think that for the most part, you really can find a reason for things happening. And whether it's a situation like a virus or, to be honest with you, I think something that is just probably happens more often is it's your diet, man. It's your diet. It's what you're putting into, actually, it's your diet, and then it's your exercise protocol and regimen. So it's what you're putting into your body on a daily basis, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. There has to be ramification toward that. And I've talked about this before. I want to say it again. Sugar, I personally think is the number one reason for most major illnesses and autoimmune situations. I think that the processed white sugar in particular, and then the havoc it wreaks on your body in terms of your insulin levels and all of that, I think that causes unbelievable damage inside the body. It causes inflammation, and it leads to the breakdown of so many things. So, again, as things come up for you, start to really look at, okay, why do I feel this way? Why am I gaining this weight? What am I eating? What am I not eating? Why am I losing all this weight even? There's cause and effect when it comes to things with the body. And again, I can't stress enough, you got to take your health into your own hands. You've got to really try to be on top of your own health, whether that's from a diet perspective or from an exercise perspective and from a movement perspective. You've got to get out there, you've got to get the steps in and all that, weight training, everything is really important. But fundamentally, if people again ask me, okay, I can do one thing a day, what would it be? I would say walk for an hour a day, really try and get those steps in, and then layer on top of it all the other things you can do. So anyway, the Jonathan episode, if you hadn't got a chance to listen, give it a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, next thing, I'm not going to play this video because there's no sound, but there was it really circulated quite a bit, but there was a video of President Biden, Vice President Harris was next to him. Her husband was next to him. I don't know what they were at. They were at some type of event because there was music playing and all that. Kamala Harris was trying to be the cool gal doing her dance moves next to the president. But man, Biden was kind of looked frozen. It looked like a deer in headlights. I don't know if you've seen this video or not, but it really made the rounds. But it was just odd. Somebody sent me a meme. They're like, the look you make when you go to the first Atlanta strip joint, which I thought was pretty funny because Atlanta is known for their strip joints. So this look on President Biden's face, again, it was just strange. And then it happened again. He was doing a fundraiser with President Obama, and then I think Jimmy Kimmel was hosting it. It was actually in Los Angeles. And again, it just kind of looked like he froze up a little bit. And then it reminded me of what happened to Mitch McConnell the former Speaker of the House. Remember, there were a couple episodes, and we talked about it in a few podcasts, where they just kind of froze up. Now, I don't really know. I'll have to research this and see kind of medically what they think it is, but they're definitely, I mean, they have to be age related. And then it started making me think, was it a TIA, that transient ischemic attack, which I talked about last week? Because those things are very, very minute. And I mean, they can happen sometimes without even people noticing it. But anyway, if you haven't seen that video, it's definitely a little strange. And it does make you question President Biden's health. And, obviously I don't think anyone expects him to serve 4 years, even if he ends up winning the election. I think it's pretty obvious he's not going to be able to serve those 4 years. There's just no way. The grind and stress of that position. Again, even though I think he has a tremendous amount of help behind the scenes, or behind the curtain, I should say, I still think it would be very unlikely, if he wins the election, that he's able to serve that entire term. All right, let me play this clip for you. Today's like a little bit of a clip catch-up day. And actually, I'll preface it with, man, there's some interesting stuff going on with Benjamin Netanyahu. He basically disbanded his military cabinet. So his emergency military cabinet, which I guess were his 6 top guys, he disbanded that over the weekend after 2 of them resigned. The most prominent one is a guy named Benny Gantz, who's kind of like a centrist, middle-of-the-road guy. I'd compare him to like a Bernie Sanders, basically, for Israel. But he's been a very outspoken critic of Netanyahu for years, but at the same time, he did basically come on board for the greater good and join this war cabinet. But then he resigned from the war cabinet, and now Netanyahu has disbanded the war cabinet. And now other people on even Netanyahu's team are pretty pissed off about that. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But give this a listen. This was an interesting interview from Academy Award-winning director Oliver Stone.
Who's a madman. And I repeat that. To me, he's a madman. I met him years ago. I interviewed him when he was out of office. And I thought he was a madman then. And I think he's gotten worse and worse and worse. He's truly insane. I've never seen such a slaughter. Justifying it like this with...
I think the beginning part got cut off. But he's talking about Netanyahu. He's talking about Benjamin Netanyahu.
As revenge. And how do you wipe out a political movement? It's never been done in the history of the world. I mean, how are you going to kill off everybody? What do you do? Separate them, send them to Egypt? What? It's just mad. The whole solution. And what was sickening to me was when Biden went over there and hat in hand and money in hand to give him what he wanted.
Oliver Stone's done some pretty provocative interviews over the years. He did one with Putin. I don't really think he's some big Republican, though. I really don't. I'll have to look that up and make sure. I could be wrong on that. But, he seems like a guy that honestly just kind of calls a spade a spade.
This is the problem with our country. We can't do this. We can't do that. We cannot constantly support Israel. We have to say, no, we'll cut them off. Cut off everything to them right now. That's what I would do. And don't give me this anti-Semitic shit. I mean, I don't even know what they're fucking talking about. Who are the anti-Semites in the world? Just a few nutcases. Nobody's an anti-Semite unless they have a problem with Hitler and all that. But this is an issue about justice and peace and balance and basic human decency. I don't understand how they can kill Palestinians like this. And now apparently they're killing, 20,000 was the last number I heard.
All right, so man, that was pretty hardcore interview, actually. So that must have been from a few months ago, because 20,000 is now over 36,000. So, okay, I did get my updated email from Haaretz, which is one of the big news organizations in Israel. I get their daily newsletter. And so, all right, let me add a little color to this. So it says, following the resignation of National Unity Party MKs, I don't know what MKs stand for, Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot from the government, Prime Minister Netanyahu announced that he was dissolving the war cabinet. Some issues to the war cabinet will now be deliberated in the wider security cabinet, but sensitive decisions will be made in a limited form in order to exclude the involvement of far-right ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. Okay, so that's interesting. Those two guys, I thought they were like Netanyahu's boys, but they're definitely being, and I know they are far right, like extreme right, like righter than what people think Trump is in terms of America as far as being far right. But I thought those two guys were his boys. And so now it looks like there's some division there as well. So that's interesting. So there's definitely some infighting that is starting to take place. All right, so the other thing in terms of that you should just keep a lazy eye on is it looks like things are heating up between Hezbollah, which is the military wing of Lebanon, and then Israel. So like now it's like the attention is shifting a little from Hamas in the south of Israel to then the northern border of Israel between Israel and Lebanon. And again, remember, Hezbollah is another one of these military organizations that are what's called a non-state actor, which means they're not a country, but they're almost like a private military organization, kind of like Hamas, the Houthis, and those guys. Supposedly, they have crazy amounts of missiles, rockets, and then also just bodies. Like their army size is like 400,000. So anyway, that seems to be heating up a little. Keep an eye on it. All right, the last thing from this Haaretz article, which I did want to read this because actually, well, we've talked about it a little bit, but I don't think anyone really even knows this. So let me read this. It says, the war comes after 10 months of the most significant domestic, political, and social crisis in decades in Israel, due to legislation that was promoted by the Netanyahu government aimed at dramatically weakening Israel's judiciary and potentially rescuing Netanyahu from the 3 corruption trials he faces. So again, Netanyahu was facing 3 corruption trials, and then there was all that controversy in regards to the protests for all those judicial reforms. Remember, we talked all about that? In addition to that, it says, prior to October 7th happening, the Netanyahu government was also in the midst of tremendous scandal as it related to the West Bank and the illegal settler occupations that seemed to be created and funded by Netanyahu and Israel's most right-wing government. So again, I only point that out to basically just let you know that, man, there was a lot going on in Israel prior to October 7th. He was on trial for 3 cases of corruption. There were all these massive protests, especially in Tel Aviv, where they were basically revolting against him. It looks like there were issues in the West Bank with these illegal settler occupations. So there was a lot going on. And then October 7th happened, and poof, they all go away. But it looks like they are coming back. All right, let's shift back to health. Got to listen to this.
Look, these turbo cancers, they're happening in pregnant women. They're happening in young kids, as I said, as young as 12 years old, but high school kids are coming down with these cancers.
All right, so this is an interview with another doctor. This is oncologist and cancer researcher, Dr. William Makis, who's sounding the alarm on the sudden rise in turbo cancers.
The turbo cancers, I'm seeing lymphomas, I'm seeing brain cancers, stage 4 brain cancers, and then breast cancers, colon cancers, lung cancers. The leukemias that are showing up in the COVID vaccinated individuals, they can kill in a matter of days or even hours. I've reported several cases where young kids, 13 years old, 16 years old, they feel unwell, they go to emergency, and the doctors discover that they have leukemia, and then they die a few hours later. These are tragic stories, and oncologists they're not talking about it. There's only Professor Daglish in St. George's University in London, United Kingdom, who's sounding the alarm. And he has seen his patients who were stable cancer patients who took a COVID booster shot, and suddenly their cancer is growing out of control. And so he's sounding the alarm. But, doctors are being persecuted for speaking up and for causing vaccine hesitancy.
All right, again, just more good data to take in. By the way, if anybody has any personal stories that relate to any of this stuff, obviously it can be completely anonymous between you and I, but please reach out to me. I think that would be very interesting and incredible addition to, having some real life, I guess, personal things I can share with everybody, again, in a completely anonymous fashion. So, all right, everybody, I'm not going to lie. I'm still a little bit tired. So anyway, call a spade. I will talk to you soon.
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.